Slash. Imagine a year where the sun vanishes. Not in an eclipse, but for months on end. A mysterious dense fog blankets Europe, Asia, and the Middle East, plunging the world into a chilling perpetual twilight. The Byzantine historian Procopius wrote, "For the sun gave forth its light without brightness, like the moon, during this whole year." What could cause such a terrifying event? Death. This wasn't mythology or a prophecy. It was a real catastrophe that marked what many historians now call the single worst year to be alive. 536 AD, the cause wasn't supernatural. It was geological. In the year 536, a colossal volcanic eruption, likely in Iceland, blasted a gigantic cloud of ash and sulfur into the upper atmosphere. Think of it as a planetary sunshade. This massive veil of aerosol spread across the entire northern hemisphere, reflecting sunlight back into space and triggering a dramatic and devastating drop in global temperatures. This event kicked off what's known as the Late Antique Little Ice Age, a period of climatic chaos that would last for over a century. The world, as they knew it, was about to change, and not for the better. The consequences were swift and brutal. With the sun obscured, temperatures plummeted. The summer of 536 was one of the coldest in over 2,000 years. We have records from China documenting snow falling in August. Across the globe, from Europe to Asia, crops failed catastrophically. The lack of sunlight meant plants couldn't grow. Ancient Irish chronicles recorded a failure of bread from the year 536. Famine became widespread, stalking communities already shivering in the unnatural cold. Malnutrition weakened immune systems, leaving millions vulnerable. People were starving, desperate, and living in a world that had suddenly turned dark and hostile. As if a global famine and a sunless sky weren't enough, something even more terrifying was lurking on the horizon. Just 5 years later, in 541, the first great pandemic of bubonic plague, known as the Plague of Justinian, struck. It arrived in an Eastern Roman Empire, already crippled by hunger and social unrest. The plague, carried by fleas on rats, traveling along trade routes, spread like wildfire through a population whose bodies were already weakened. It is estimated to have killed up to a third of the empire's population, perhaps 50 million people, at a time when the world's population was only around 200 million. It was a 1-2 punch from nature that brought an entire civilization to its knees. The darkness of 536 was followed by the shadow of death itself. For centuries, these accounts were just words in ancient texts. Were they exaggerations then? Modern science found the smoking gun. In 2018, a team led by archaeologist Michael McCormick and glaciologist Paul Miewski analyzed an ice core drilled from a Swiss glacier. Ice cores are like time capsules, trapping atmospheric particles from each year in distinct layers. And in the layer 4, the spring of 536, they found a thick deposit of volcanic tephra, microscopic glass shards. Chemical analysis of these shards pointed directly to a volcanic source in Iceland. The ancient chronicles were right. McCormick himself declared it. It was the beginning of one of the worst periods to be alive, if not the worst year. The ice had held the secret for 1,500 years. Further analysis of tree rings from around the world confirmed the story. Tree growth rings for 536 and the years immediately following are incredibly thin, showing that the trees, like the crops, struggled to survive in the cold and dark. This wasn't just a local event. It was a global catastrophe, confirmed by multiple lines of scientific evidence. The combination of historical records and modern science paints a terrifyingly clear picture of a world plunged into chaos by a single volcanic eruption. It was a chain reaction of disaster. First, the ash cloud, then the cold, then the famine, and finally, the plague. So, why is 536 considered the worst year to be alive? It wasn't just a single bad event. 2. It was the trigger for a cascade of catastrophes that lasted for decades. It ushered in an era of suffering, death, and societal collapse that historians call a dark age. It combined the terror of an environmental apocalypse with the horror of a global pandemic. It demonstrates just how fragile our civilizations are, how dependent we are on the stable climate we often take for granted. A single event, thousands of miles away, can change the course of human history. But the story of 536 isn't just about disaster, it's also about resilience. Humanity survived. People adapted. They rebuilt. The societies that emerged from this century of hardship were different, transformed by the experience. It's a stark reminder that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit endures. The story of the worst year in history is a sobering lesson from the past, reminding us of the forces of nature and the strength of those who lived through them. Thanks for watching. If you found this journey into the past fascinating, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next exploration of history's most incredible stories. See you next time.